Hey guys, Dave Keller here with Market Misbehavior. I hope you're all doing well. Wanted to continue this series of videos talking about what I call the 7 salutations. If you missed some of the earlier videos, I'd encourage you to start back, watch them in order if you can. Start with the first one where I introduced this topic of the 7 salutations. Basically has to do with journaling and what I call the 3 pages. I read a book years ago called The Artist's Way, which talked about encouraging creativity, unleashing creativity. One of the first exercises that they recommended was to fill 3 pages in a notebook every morning and just write whatever's on the top of your mind. And I'll tell you what happens is when you start, I remember literally writing like, this is ridiculous, why am I doing this? And then what happens though is over time it became easier and easier to have a genuine dialogue with myself. And I found that over time it ended up helping me be honest with myself, actually listen to the voice I was using, talking to myself. It's funny, we often will work really hard on speaking nicely to others and treating others well, but the voice inside our head can actually be pretty caustic, pretty negative at times, if not a lot of times. And so it's a great way to sort of have a healthy dialogue with yourself, increase self-awareness. And for me, self-awareness is not just something you want to do as an individual, but also as an investor. Being self-aware is one of the great superpowers with some of the top investors I've gotten to work with. I feel like they have great self-awareness. And you can only have good self-awareness if you have a good, consistent, positive dialogue with yourself. So what do I mean by the 7 salutations? Well, at the end of my 3rd page every morning, I write the same series of things. This is my page from yesterday. And that list of things is built up over time. I started off just trying to figure out how I was going to end it. It just seemed silly to stop writing. I needed to write something, so I did. But over time, I started to add some other things, that just things I wanted to remember, just little quick sayings. So previous ones we've talked about, remember rule number 6, stay foolish, always connect, things like that. And for me, it was just, it ended up being a mantra, 7 things that I would write the same way every day. It was a mantra I would repeat to myself. It was included things that I wanted to remember and just internalize and be part of who I was that day. So today we will hit on the 6th of the 7 salutations, and it is the 2 parallel lines, which is one of the most simple, and it's actually the first thing I ever finished my journal with. I needed a way to finish the 3rd page and just kind of signal that I was done. So I drew these 2 parallel lines. You can see it here, just the 2 parallel lines right there. Right? So it's funny, it started out as just a way to finish it, and it actually came from an earlier version of my journal when I wouldn't start a new day on a new page. I just wanted a way to break up one day from the next. So I draw the 2 lines as just a way to visually represent that I changed days. But what I found is over time, it's actually taken on an additional meaning. For me, I'm an overthinker. I'm a perfectionist, a struggling perfectionist, or a lapsed perfectionist, maybe. Trying to recognize and embrace imperfection and embrace the fact that things don't have to be perfect. That's a myth. It's a mirage, and just try to just accept things as they are. And part of that process for me has been to recognize that at some point I just need to be done, right? With a new project, whether it's an investment thesis, whether it's a new report, and I'm trying to lay out an argument, I can keep tweaking it and keep adjusting things ad nauseum, right? And so when I'm writing something, I've had to learn that after I write a rough draft, after I edit it, after my editor takes a look at it and I review it again, at some point I just have to be done and just say it's going out. And it might not be 100% the most ideal, beautifully written, articulated report ever, but it's good enough for today, and good enough is good enough. And so for an investment thesis, it's very easy to overthink things. It's very easy to develop a thesis on Bitcoin going higher, on gold going lower, on airlines starting to outperform, and you start gathering all the evidence, you start putting that together, and the evidence compels you to make that thesis, but you can always read one more article. You can always look at one more chart. You can always analyze with one additional tool that you haven't done yet. But at some point you have to recognize that the thesis is good enough. The idea makes sense. This is ready to go. I'm ready to send this out. I'm ready to pull the trigger and buy the stock or sell the stock or the ETF or whatever. And you just have to do it. So while those double lines started out as a visual cue, for me, those double lines are a reminder to be done with things, to focus on putting in good effort, making a best effort, but then recognizing that moment when things could and should be done. It's sort of that 90% level. Once I get to an A is going to be good enough. And it might not be an A++ 100%, but 96% is actually really good, and I'm going to be okay with that. So the lines are part of the way of me recognizing that this was good enough. This may not have been the perfect journal article I've ever entered. This isn't my most amazing thoughts ever, but this is good enough for right now. And those lines, number way, are a way of sort of pointing out it's imperfect and that's okay. It's also reminding me during the day to have a hard stop on things, to not keep dwelling on things that I've done, to not keep rethinking something that I've already moved forward with, to sort of do the best I can to have a focused effort that is limited, and then move on and allow myself to embrace something else. It really speaks to the purpose of the 3 pages. The whole point of the 3 pages is to get all of the stuff, all of the baggage, all of the junk out of the way that opens the way for you to be creative. But the only way you can really unleash your creativity is by getting the junk out and then moving on. And I think that's the beauty of that 3 pages concept. You're filling a notebook with the stuff, and it could be mundane things, it could be important things, but it's just getting it all out of the way. And then what's left is your ability to create and inspire and move forward. So the lines for me are a beautiful reminder that it's okay to be imperfect. It is important to have a fixed, limited, but very focused effort on anything that I do, whether it's something I'm writing, whether it's an investment decision I'm making, whether it's a relationship, whether it's how I'm dealing with my daughter, with my son, with my wife, with my parents, to remember to be present and to be focused, and then to be able to move on and make sure that I am in my next conversation, that I'm not dwelling on something that I said earlier, that I'm really focusing and being present in the now. So that idea of the 2 parallel lines started as something pretty simple, as just a visual cue, and it's ended up becoming a beautiful reminder to remain imperfect, embrace imperfection, to focus on what's important, and limit your focus, which allows you to focus on the next thing when you're ready. I hope this has been an interesting exercise as I talk through my 7 salutations. As always, my question for you is, what are your salutations? What are you writing at the end of your journal? What inspires you? What moves you? What are the mantras that you want to repeat? And in particular, what are you doing every morning, every day to remind yourself to embrace imperfection and to move on, not dwell on past decisions and past thoughts? From everyone at Misbehavior, I'm Dave Keller. Hope you're doing well. Thanks a lot.